Welcome, everybody, to another wonderful edition of Mid-Atlantic Championship. Oh, no, wait a minute. That's throwing me back. That's some old school stuff there. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our brand new show, WrestleZone Unfiltered. How's everybody doing tonight? We'll go to my right or your left, wherever we're going, to our wonderful boss, the man that makes all this happen, Connor Hayes. How you doing tonight, Connor?
You're muted.
Yeah.
There you go.
What I was saying was it's finally great to have a Thursday show again. Someone's already commented. Finally a Thursday show again. This should be a very exciting show.
We got a really big shoe. And joining us all the way from across the border, Hammer back in the house. Hammer, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, thanks. Good to be back. Good timing. Thursday nights are good for me.
And of course, all the way from Cucamonga, California, by way of that's where he is the president of Warlow's fan club, and I think she secretly runs a Young Bucks fan club too. Our resident, Miss Danny, how you doing?
I'm good. I have missed you guys, especially Amer, like you would not believe. Been super busy with work, 2-year-old's life, and looking for actually got a new job starting in a couple weeks because of my 45-minute commute, which makes me exhausted.
45 minutes. Boy, I'd kill for 45 minutes.
I don't look for new jobs. I just play the lotto and hope for the best. I like my job.
There you go.
Well, Unfiltered, this is where we're going tonight. So I'll do Danny a favor, and I'll just start it off with the Young Bucks. I have never liked them sorry sons of bitches from the time I saw them in Ring of Honor. It's they jump around like Gumby in a damn wrestling ring. They're not worth a shit. They can't cut a promo. But I will tell you this, in their defense, I'm kind of excited for what they're doing because it's funny. You know, everybody that gives them so much crap online about the EVP stuff, and they kind of went with it to try to make it funny and do something. And of course, they miserably failed at that too. It sucked like everything else they do. But when they left because of John Moxley and the Death Riders now, no more BCC, which I'm comfortable with, being Regal's been gone for 2 years. They left and we're out. We're not doing this anymore. We're going to work from home, which to me, Kenny Omega, from what I've read, is coming back in New Japan. His first match is going to be over there. And we'll see what happens at the pay-per-view this Saturday with Moxley and Orange Cassidy. But I'm sure Moxley's going to retain one way or the other. I'm still looking for possibly Darby to turn and throw another monkey wrench into that. But, maybe not. But, the Elite's going to come back to save the company. And like I said, I like Omega. He can't cut a promo, but I like watching Omega wrestle. As far as the Young Bucks and the Hangman Page, could care less. But we'll see. I'll give the storyline a chance and see where it's going. So Danny, what do you think? Those are your boys. What do you think is going to happen?
When I saw that segment, I was actually leaving work and I was walking through the parking lot. I went on Twitter and I saw that segment where Danny Garcia was with Private Party, and he, addressed Jack Perry and obviously in the Bucks, and he goes, "Well, what, you guys aren't doing anything with this?" So I'm like looking at this and I go, "Oh my God, Kingston's back." I was, and at first, because of the accent, that was the only thing I heard. I thought it was Eddie Kingston. I watched it again and I'm like, "Oh, Danny Garcia, nice to meet you." Because I feel like this is giving Danny Garcia a little bit more of a personality as opposed to, being in JAS that he was in, which was great. But then this kind of took him up a little level and made it more interesting. So then I got home and I'm, in a hurry. I'm speeding on the interstate, just kidding. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm excited to get home to see this. And when I saw what happened before, and then what happened, with the segment, I was like, oh, this is great. But when he threw Glass Boy up against the wall, absolutely priceless. And I must say, my nephew's 15. I bought him shoes for his birthday. He's as tall as the Bucks and could outtake both of them, honestly. And this was such a great segment. I'm loving this whole Jack Perry, Danny Garcia thing. But when, of course, our little backyard beauty queens oh, well, we can't handle this. Oh, okay. When Little Backyard Beauty Queens took off and Christopher Daniels asked them where they were going, and he's like, well, I'm going to work from home. Not only did I find that hysterical with the sarcasm, but bye-bye, Buck. See you later. Go learn how to wrestle because you obviously can't do it.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'll be interested to see where it goes when they bring them all back, whether Okada and Jack Perry will be part of it.
Right.
They haven't mentioned anything about the elite period since, a couple weeks even before the Bucks disappeared. I figured once they did the private party thing, the two of them were not ready to go on their own. So I just figured they would lose the titles, and they did. And like I said, the end of it was kind of just okay. Maybe Nick's going to get some hair surgery. I don't know. He's got the money to afford it, but we'll see. We'll see what happens when they come back. And, hopefully it's not like everything else where it's just one big popcorn fart when they return. And it's just like, oh, okay, just leave it, please. Amber, what do you think?
Are we talking just specifically about the Bucks or about like the whole situation overall?
You that's unfiltered, man.
It's unfiltered.
You go
with
what you want, brother.
Yeah. Well, with the Bucks, to be honest, I have never really seen the Bucks in what I guess people would consider their heyday. I wasn't really paying too much attention to wrestling at that time, even peripherally WWE at the time. When the Bucks were considered to be, oh my God, you got to see their matches and they're awesome and all of that.
What matches? What
wrestling? I don't know. I'm told, right? I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to the fact that such things did happen. Okay, whatever. To me, it just seems like I was going to say the perfect microcosm. There are so many. It's one of the epic microcosms of AEW as a whole. In that, when this whole thing first started with the Bucks, and they're like, okay, we're going to flex our muscle as EVPs. I was like, something? They're actually trying. Like, I really think that they were trying to make something out of the whole story about them smashing Tony Khan and all of that kind of stuff. There was something there, but there's just nobody with the wherewithal to kind of see it through. And it just, it was just gone. Like, you had a chance. There was something there. Now it's not there. So now let's recreate it again with Moxley. Okay. Moxley's, trying to rah-rah and say, I'm going to recreate AEW. Okay, well, somebody tried before. It didn't work. You're going to try. Hey, it's not going to work either. Not the way that you expect, because there's nobody with the vision. You guys have just been booking week after week after week without any long-term vision. And I don't know what the Bucks are actually thinking. I don't know whether I think what they think is, let's separate ourselves from this for a while and pick an opportune moment to come back where we think we're going to look good. Now, does that remind you of anybody, Jason? At least the reputation of somebody who would be kind of political behind the scenes and be like, I'm going to go away for a while, but I'll be back, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the opportune time, I'll show up and I'll be the hero, right?
I was going to say that doesn't work for me, brother, but you beat me.
Yeah, I get it. But and I really think that the Bucks, like Jericho, like Moxley, like a whole bunch of people are like, I'm going to do this, and this is going to be good, and I'm doing this for the benefit of AEW. And I honestly believe that they have good intentions, that they mean what they say, and they want to do something to make it work. But without somebody up top with a vision to make it work, you just got a bunch of guys who are electricians trying to run an electrical business.
Well, you talk about, I'll make 2 points on this. I don't care if you brought in Hulk Hogan in his heyday, Roman Reigns, the list could, the Rock, you could, this going away for, putting somebody on TV for a week or two, and then they're gone for 6 weeks. And then you bring trying to pick up a storyline. People just don't care.
No.
And, you talk about Hogan, he had his great run with the WWF in the 80s, but, his original run in WCW was bad. I mean, it failed miserably. He got a pop the first couple of times he came out, but damn, all he did was work with Flair. Flair kept laying down match after match after match, and you started to hear the boos, and that's, then the NWO happened and it resurrected his career.
Mm-hmm.
But, like I said, if they're trying to do, an NWO angle or this angle to make the people actually care about the Young Bucks or whatever, But I'm not a big fan of Moxley either. I don't, they just, it's the same shit week after week after week. And, I like I said, I mean, they might let Orange Cassidy beat him for the title, but if they do, I think it would be a stupid move because it just kills this whole storyline. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did. That's just the way they do stuff. Connor, what do you think?
For me, kind of like Amar said, since the Elite story failed, I have no faith that this Moxley story is going to go anywhere. I think what's probably going to happen is when the Young Bucks do come back, they'll probably try to do like the Elite trying to save AEW. Because last time we seen them, Daniel Garcia was like, you're just going to let them like destroy the company you helped create. But that's probably what they're going to do. Kenny Omega will probably forget about them attacking him. Because remember the last time we seen Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks attacked him. We're probably going to forget about that.
Yeah, with Okada.
Yeah, they'll forget about everything that they did earlier this year. And then, like, they're just going to try to forget about certain things. Try to, I don't know. I don't think any of that. I wouldn't be surprised if they put the title on Orange Cassidy. If they do, and they just rush this entire, like, they didn't think out this whole story if Orange Cassidy wins.
They haven't thought out anything.
Speaking of Orange Cassidy, what in the hell are they spraying on Adam Cole before he comes out to the ring?
I actually asked that last week. I asked my husband, I go, he has got the weirdest shape. Like he is almost like they want him to be tan, but even when you spray tan, there's like a certain, you're supposed to turn or you're going to turn into like Ross Geller, that episode of Friends when he went in the tanning booth.
Are you kidding me? He looks like Garfield on crack.
Really? No, but I think Danny is absolutely right. It's like everything else. He's trying, but he's just doing it wrong.
Yeah, you're supposed to turn. I've actually done the spray cans, and you're supposed to turn, and it's supposed to give you that like even like color, whatever. But with him, I'm like, oh my God, no wonder why Britt Baker broke up with him. I mean, look at him. I mean, if Britt's a role model, Britt's a fox, Britt could do better than him.
Well, the way he looks, she might have just went to Food Line and got a carrot and replaced him.
There you go. Yeah, it really is just a microcosm for so much in AEW, right?
Oh
I mean, a friend of mine
you.
who's no longer with us, God rest his soul, he told me something once that's always stuck with me,
Mhm.
and that is that people who understand what and how will always be working for people who understand why. And in AEW, I think you got a lot of people who understand some things about what and how. You don't have a single person there who's willing to step up and talk who understands why.
Well, that's it goes back to, when Hogan would offer to do, he would do the job as long as you could answer the what next.
Yes.
If you could answer that question, and this hadn't just been Bischoff that said it. There's been several people that said Hulk didn't mind putting anybody over despite what people think of him. But as long as you had to tell him what came afterwards. And if you couldn't do it, you might as well be talking to yourself.
That's right. And that actually makes sense. You have to protect your brand, and there has to be a why, right?
Absolutely. I mean, but it's like, speaking of Danny, I tweeted at your boy last night that when they were out there with, they were talking to Roddy and Taven and Bennett, and I just tweeted out, we want Wardlow. And he liked the tweet. I'm like, he's probably thinking the same thing.
There's just been so much, and I know Connor, you and I have mentioned this too, and I know you mentioned it too, that there's so much that he's injured. And I addressed Matt Taven, and I'm like, you're actually going to lie about your coworker. I'm like, he's not. Connor and I both have a very reliable source that shall be nameless. Shh. Yeah. And Connor knows who I'm talking about, but he's not injured. It's just that Tony Khan again went on. He told Brian Alvarez that he books week to week and doesn't do long-term booking.
Yep.
Tony Khan's idea of booking, in my opinion, is either A, he writes it on a dry erase board. Oh, we're going to book this one. You book this one. We'll book this one. He has people show up like Wardlow, who apparently Wardlow once drove, I think it was 5 hours to a TV taping. Sat there, got there and was told to go home and had to drive 5 hours back. And it's like, okay. And then you also look into the fact too, that he probably draws names out of a hat. Like, oh, you work this week. We'll have you do this week. Oh, you can go in 3 weeks. Then who is this guy that pops up in the segment with Private Party with the little kid?
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought I was looking at Chris
Oh,
Farley.
the-
I thought I was
Costco
looking at
guy.
Chris
Yeah.
Farley. God bless the man's soul. I worked for his dad once. His dad owned a McDonald's where I live. Great guy. But again, Chris Farley, God bless his soul. And he is from where I live, but still, who the hell is this guy? I'm going to Dynamite. I'll be at Dynamite next Wednesday, Amer. You're not going to be there. Just kidding. But I'll be there. I'll have a nice sign for you guys. And I've got a couple unfiltered ones, Jason, for a certain owner who would rather book Backyard Beauty Queens, their glass friend, a guy who looks like he should work at Gap, Orange Cassidy, along with giving Monet creative control, but yet won't give us people that we want to see, which are Starks, Wardlow, and other people. I mean, it's just, I don't get it. I look up, who the hell is this guy? No clue.
I thought Stark's contract was supposed to be up here pretty soon,
I hope it is.
and he's not hurt.
Yeah,
So
he needs to go.
him and Wardlow are not in the Adam Cole situation to where he can add injury time and have to work for him till he's 55 years old. So the whole thing with Adam Cole, and I don't know what they're doing. Kyle O'Reilly comes out. I mean, I've been shaking my head at this crap since Adam and MJF came back, because they ended with Adam turning on MJF, and then they bring it back and the roles are reversed. It's like
In the double storyline.
Yep.
yeah, it's like they switched it up, and Adam Cole wants to talk about, oh, you knew it was coming, nobody can trust you, and then Kyle O'Reilly comes out and like, you're not as evil as MJF, and that's good. And I like Taven and Bennett. They can talk, but Red Dragon is a much better tag team than they are. I mean, Taven and Bennett, I like in the ring. So I don't think Bobby Fish will ever be back. I think he burnt that bridge, but I don't know where any of it goes. The only thing that I'll give them is the end of it last night is they let Moxley and his group beat up Orange Cassidy, and they get it ready for the pay-per-view, because Cassidy gets up, sticks his hands in his pockets, and like, okay, I took your best shot, now what? So I mean, that's a little bit of storytelling there, but it's like, the Outrunners. I like the Outrunners. They're good for comic relief, but I mean, what are we really doing with some of this crap? I mean,
There's no why.
And I thought I saw Orange Cassidy folding jeans at the Gap, but I don't know.
He might have been, and they had to point out last night that he was in black jeans. That's mean he's been focused.
Okay.
I'm like, are you kidding me? Is this what we're talking? Okay. All right.
Does anyone know if Tony dressed up in black jeans for Halloween? I don't know.
I think I know what he did dress up as, though.
What's that?
Andy from Toy Story.
There you go.
I've seen this.
Oh.
I've seen this. Yeah.
Yep.
I've seen this.
Dressed up.
Besides Moxley and Orange Cassidy, I couldn't tell you another matchup. Well, Roderick Strong and MJF.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't tell you any other matches from the pay-per-view coming up this Saturday.
Unfortunately, I can, because I send them to my mom. She's actually pretty good at picking winners. So she thinks Orange Cassidy is going to win, and I'm like, okay, so that means that the Moxley storyline is meaningless. I can see that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. No, he's with the storyline. No, he shouldn't. But it's AEW and it's Tony. So, and we all know Orange Cassidy.
We all know he listens.
He's been his favorite from day one. So
yeah, he listens to the wrong people. He books I don't know if I'm watching again a high school econ project or if I'm watching a legit wrestling promotion. And I say this because we've been to Dynamite 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, our fourth Dynamite. We are looking at going to All In Texas. We were just talking about it because the Royal Rumble tickets, even though Indianapolis is closer, the Rumble tickets were like, holy.
Oh, yeah.
God, no. And I do respect Tony Khan. I like Tony Khan. I just don't understand his way of thinking. And again, Tony Khan, you could hire the four of us. We'll run your company. I'll be your publicist. I can be filtered when the situation calls for it.
Depending on my mood. But, I'd like, just for anybody listening, there's a lot of stuff with WWE I don't particularly like or understand. I mean, I think the Bloodline has been an extremely good storyline for the most part. I mean, you talk about the comedy matches coming up with the Boom guy and QT Marshall at the pay-per-view. I mean, just a couple of years ago, Sami Zayn was wrestling Johnny Knoxville with a damn mousetrap on him, and I just shook my head because I've always liked Sammy. and the bloodline gave him, even though it wasn't scripted at first, it was just kind of, I'll do a couple of comedy segments and, get people to warm up to him. And then, it elevated Sammy's career to where he's at now. But I've never been a fan of Nia Jax, but I'm more interested in Refrigerator Jax's storyline right now than anything else on AEW TV. I mean, they're actually giving her, a couple of different stories going on between the Liv Morgan match and then the Naomi stuff, and waiting on when is Tiffany going to cash in on her, because we know it's going to be her. We know what's coming, and you're kind of anticipating that move. And you don't have to like Tiffany, you don't have to like Nia. I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure it's like for those little girls that are there working with a couch trying to move that thing around by yourself. But they've given Nia Jax a storyline. Not that it's my favorite thing on their TV, but it when she comes out, you're not just, oh, she's going to come out here and do whatever she used to do before she left and then came back. It's some substance there. Like it or not, there's substance, and that's where my biggest gripe with AEW is, because you'll watch it one Wednesday and say, all right, what's going to happen next week? And they don't mention it. There's not a word of it. It's like you talk about the Young Bucks. Now, that match they had in the cage with the Lucha Brothers, it was entertaining. I was entertained, but was I invested in it? No. Was I sitting there going, I can't get up? No, I got up, got a cup of coffee, used the bathroom, came back. I mean, it was one of the better matches I've seen them in. But it wasn't a wrestling match. It was simply a spot fest. And some people like that. And if you do, God bless you, because I don't. I want to see two guys go out there and tell a story. And I don't want to see, they like trying to, Tony Khan can't make up his mind on if he wants to be ECW, New Japan, Ring of Honor. He doesn't know what he wants to be. And it's, it's like, I'll give you some examples. When Adam Page said cowboy shit the first time, it was supposed to give you the, he just said shit on TV. He's not supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. And, it wasn't 10, 15 minutes later that Chris Jericho comes out, something shit this, shit that. And then you got Jade a couple of segments later going, Tony, cut the shit. It's like, and then, go back to matches, when you see somebody go through a table 3 matches in a row, it gets old. If you're going to let somebody go through a table, that's when you tell the rest of the roster that's wrestling that night, all right, these guys are using a table, or these girls are using a table. They're using a chair. Nobody else can do it, because it gets boring over and over. It's the same shit over and over again. And I don't like it.
You need to have production meetings for that to work.
Yeah, that too.
That's something that I like about Punk's Collision. Buddy Matthews and Andrade had a feud, and that one episode had a ladder match. It was the only show on the show that had any weapons or anything like that. And then in the next match, you have like an actual pure wrestling match, and you have a tag match, and it was very, very different. Not the same stuff over and over and over and over and over and over. And we were talking about this. It's probably a while ago, but yeah, Tony doesn't wants to be. Sometimes he wants to be Ring of Honor, then he wants to be AAA, and then he wants to be New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then he wants to be AEW, and then he doesn't know what he wants to be. And that's why AEW doesn't have a identity anymore, really, because it just feels like it's so, one week we're this, one week we're that. There's no consistency.
Well, Tony Khan has nobody to blame but himself. If you think we're wrong about pointing out his faults, I just want to point out that the Jaguars are like 3-9. So, kind of the same business there. But I'll tell you why I don't like Hangman Adam Page. I take it back to where I think he was the beginning of the end. And because, CM Punk came in there, you don't have to like CM Punk. Hell, half the time I don't. But, when CM Punk came in, he was excited to be back in wrestling. The fans were excited to have him back. The numbers when he was on the show showed they were excited to have him back. Even Rampage was drawing numbers, which is down to 185,000 viewers, which
Rampage is still on. I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't watch it, but it's still on. But when, Adam Page went out there, him and Punk had went over a promo in the back. And then they got out there, and Page just started shooting on Punk about Colt Cabana. And, Tony did nothing. There was no punishment. There was no, nothing that would have told the rest of the roster this is not going to be tolerated. And as a boss, you can be buddy and pull him in your office and say, look, man, I love you, but if I don't do something. And you see what the rest of the roster did. I went from the Bucks not wanting to work with Punk to that whole thing that came out when the fight broke out. And I love Kenny when he was talking about it, playing his video game. He's like, how do you go back there to fight anybody, man? I just didn't want the damn dog to get hurt. It was kind of comical listening to him talk, but when he finally opened up about it. But Adam Page was the whole, like I said, I don't blame him. You can go out there and do what you want to, but when the boss doesn't step in and make an example out of somebody when they do that kind of stuff, Vince McMahon would have been waiting in the back to fire him. And you don't have to like Vince, but that's the way you run a business. Exactly. But on the flip side of that, if Vince McMahon had been in Tony Khan's shoes or seat when CM Punk went off at the press conference, if McMahon didn't fire him right there in front of everybody, he would have done it when they got to the back. That would have been the mics. Yeah, he would have been done for that. And Tony's just sitting there like a deer in headlights going, you can't so whether it's Page, Punk, the Young Bucks, or anybody else, but you got to be the boss. You can't be their friend. You can like them, you can get along. You don't have to be a dick to them, but you got to run your company.
Well, I heard somebody this week say, Tony needs somebody who can say no. Somebody suggested somebody like JBL who would never do it, but it's like you don't need somebody to just say no. You need somebody to say F no. Right? To some people sometimes. That's what being a boss is about.
Yeah, no, the interesting thing is my job right now in my preschool, they were going to send me to a different location from where I'm at now to teach 4K, be an assistant. And my first day there, I was just like, okay, didn't care for it. There's a girl who was sitting at the director's desk eating lunch with the computer open to the director's email. In my experience, that's how your rumors get started. That's how your gossip gets started. She's in good with the boss. Okay, that's great now. But then when you use that friendship with your boss to the advantage, which is, I feel like still, I believe that's what the Bucks did. And that's why the whole thing got out of control, because Tony Khan didn't want to be a leader. He wanted to be more of a friend. And when you're a friend to your employees, you're just going to say, oh, okay, well, I get it, but don't let it happen again. Or is it, I understand we're friends, but this is how this person felt. If this happens again, we're going to have a conversation, and there is a difference. And he didn't exercise his authority.
Dixie Carter.
No, and Deshaun just commented that if Tony would have handled it, Punk would have never went off the press conference. And
correct.
I agree wholeheartedly.
100%.
But you go back in the annals of history. I mean, Tony can use a couple of examples, being he's such a pro wrestling person and he knows everything about pro wrestling. If you know everything about pro wrestling, then you would know one of the biggest mistakes Vince McMahon ever made was letting Shawn Michaels get away with murder.
Yep.
I mean, the whole Bret Hart situation, the curtain call.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he comment. And his thing was, well, he reminds me of me when I was shut up, dude. And then you got Bischoff with the NWO hanging out with Hogan, Hall, and Nash. Hogan and Nash specifically, and DDP almost didn't get his push because Bischoff, the boys will talk if I push my neighbor, and that was Hall and Nash finally talking him into it, and good for them to push the issue. But I mean, a lot of that talent in the back. I mean, especially the cruiserweights that went on to be, Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Dean Malenko, all those guys that went on to have successful careers with heavyweight titles, that he wouldn't even look at them. Goldberg's another one that he just let walk all over people and walk all over him and not be the boss. And like I said, Vince and Shawn Michaels is a prime example of, Vince making the same mistake, but he made it once. He didn't make it again. Now, so like I said, Tony, if you want to go back in the annals of history, look at how being friends with people or having a soft spot for somebody, how it worked out for them.
I will say this, however you feel about AEW, however you feel about Tony, I think it's come to there is no Santa Claus moment for AEW fans. And what it is Tony is not that different. The wrestling business is not that different, right? He is going to write the show and book the show for what he wants. Like Vince McMahon did, like all promoters do to some extent.
Well, you talk about that, and it's, if you watch football, it's a pretty foregone conclusion that Doug Peterson will be fired at the end of the season because they're having. I mean, you got a number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence who's got a cannon of an arm. You've got some talent there, and the head coach, is not bringing the best out of that talent. And at the end of the day, that's what Tony Khan is. He might be the owner, but he's the head coach of these players and the talent playing for AEW. And it's, I'm still grateful to him for bringing it out. I mean, I was loyal to WCW till the end because of what I grew up watching, and that's just it was always tied to the Crockett's and everything else with Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. And I was grateful for him to bring it back. I was excited, but it's not that I want to shit on all his product every week. It's just it lets me down. It disappoints me because I feel like they've got some talented individuals there. To me they could just do so much better. And it's not that I want it to go off air. It's not that I'm not glad they got a TV deal, because WWE was, you could tell they just didn't care once WCW closed. Once they bought WCW and they had no more competition, in my opinion, the product was pretty bad for a while. And
it was very bad.
But what did they care? Nobody was going to throw them off TV. They were still drawing ratings. And, like I said, I agree with you. But the thing is, if he brings somebody in that can say no, and then, whether it's Paige or the Young Bucks or whoever, hey, Tony,
yeah,
Mr. D'Amore told me no. Can I do it anyway? Yeah, man, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. So, to me, it's he's got to be the one that he needs to be the one to finally say, "Are you stupid? No, you cannot do that." And like I said, stop letting everybody do the same damn thing every match because it gets old and people don't want to watch it.
I feel like
so much like that.
When Punk had his collision, I feel like he was going to be that type of person. But just like we already heard about Jack Perry and all that stuff. So, and apparently Punk had 2 contracts. He had wrestler contract, and then he had a consultant to Tony, whatever. As Punk said, whatever the hell that was. So, obviously, and it was Punk's show. Obviously, they pretty much made that known. So, even if they brought Scott D'Amore, like there probably would be that, like, yeah, like they would probably go to Tony and try to do stuff anyways. But yeah, they need someone like JBL will probably be the best person for that. He's been described as a bully by a lot of people in wrestling, for the good and right reasons. But I feel like if they had someone like JBL, that would some people might get their feelings hurt. But
wrestling, you talk about Punk and collision. Just the way, that's a prime example of, how the company is run backstage, because I forgot who they said had told Jack Perry he couldn't use glass, but then, he cussed them out. No, but I'm getting to that. It was somebody had told him they couldn't use it and he cussed them out. And then Tony Schiavone went to him and said, no, we can't do that. And he cussed him out. And when Punk got to the building, Tony Schiavone's the one that went to him and said, hey, can you go take care of this, please? So, to wait on, to have your people backstage and to wait whether he had a consulting job or not, and to wait on another talent, whether it's Punk or anybody else, to ask them to go tell somebody they can't do something that a producer or whatever, I know Tony's got a role backstage, but, whatever Tony's role is, that he's already told him no to, just tells you everything you need to know about the structure of that company.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it. So much potential there, but again, if there's no why, it's like, hey, let's put on a wrestling show every week. Okay, how far is that going to get you?
Well, it's like coming up, Mina Shirakawa said last night she's going to give Mariah May the celebration she's been waiting on. And I think Tony's saying she's retired. You might see Tony pop back up, or you might see Mina finally turn on and tell her she wants the title. So but when last week, when Harley Cameron and Mina were sitting there and they started shaking their titties at each other, I'm like, are we back in the 90s again? I thought we got past that. But, it's like I said, he's all over the place and can't figure out what direction that he wants to take the company. It's like 1 week it's this and 1 week it's that. 1 week it's the 80s, next week it's the 90s. And, the funny thing I get a kick out of with the Outrunners is that's kind of the gimmick that FTR turned down when they left WWE. They wanted to start coming out every week as a retro tag team, as Rock and Roll, Midnight, the Fantastic, the Fabulous Ones, because they they were such a throwback, to Tully and Arn, and they're like, so you basically want to make a joke out of us, and they're like, no, we're out. So, I mean, it's not just AEW that does it. I mean, I can sit here and nitpick WWE all day long, and there's going to be episodes where I do, but I'm nitpicking the AEW tonight and starting off because we're part of the All Elite Zone. It's what we want to talk about a lot and get across to the fans. And it's, people like your tribalist, Amber, the people you love the most. It's like I said, I don't think anybody actually feels that way. They're just bored, stupid people with nothing else to do than try to pick fights with people online and get a reaction. I mean, that's why I've left a lot of these groups on Facebook because that's all they do. Somebody will just post something so stupid and outlandish, and everybody's like, you moron, why are you doing this? Well, why are you interacting with them? I don't comment. I just see it and keep rolling.
I mean, I'm doing that now too. But I mean, really what it is it starts from the top and it comes from the bottom as well. Mm-hmm. And what I feel is that so much of the ethos, shall we say, for lack of a better word, of AEW is that it is great and it is special and it is perfect. If you don't believe me, just ask Tony Khan.
Well, I'm curious. I'd love to see the contract on the TV deal to see if there's an out after a year or maybe.
I bet you there's all sorts of conditions. Mm-hmm. Like everybody throws out that number, 185 million. It's probably up to 185 million, depending on this and depending on this, depending on this. Whatever.
I mean, I forgot who it was that made the point, but I was like, damn, I didn't even think about it. After they signed the TV deal, they're like, okay, but does that make them profitable? And they're like, what do you mean? They're like, they started naming off all the, their payroll's over $100 million a year.
Yeah.
And they started naming off all the travel costs, all the buildings that they rent, X, Y, Z. And I'm like, oh shit. You're bringing in 185 million and people are questioning if you're going to be profitable. And it's like, all right, dude, you might want to call Domino's back and promise them that Chris Jericho will never use a pizza cutter again.
Yeah.
So you can get them
There's so much we don't know about that deal. So much we don't know. So much we won't find out for several years.
And we'll go back to WWE. I'll say this. A lot of people are like, oh, they were so bad that they couldn't get the TV deal. And this, I think it's a smart move to go to Netflix.
It's a brilliant deal.
I mean, first off, it's a buttload of money they got. Yeah. But second off, that puts them in, where they've been taking their B pay-per-views overseas. It puts them in every household except for like 18 places. And you give Netflix a couple more years, they'll probably be at least in half those, if not all of them by then. But everywhere in the world that, places like USA and Fox and stuff do not reach, but Netflix does. Yep. It's going to open up a whole new merchandising, places to go, and everything else that they can, views on social media. I know they get paid for that and some kind of deal on that stuff, so I, like you just said, I thought it was brilliant that they did it. Yeah. And, I'd like to see, I don't know where Max is. I know they're not the capability of Netflix, but, I'd like to see something where they can go with Max. And I know they're going to broadcast simultaneously with TBS, TNT, and Max going to be live like Netflix is going to be doing with Raw. I don't know if it's what it'll do for the ratings if people are watching on Max opposed to Turner TV, but it's like, I just want him to get his shit together. That's all. I mean, and if people might laugh, but if he really wants to figure out week to week TV, go back and start Dallas from the beginning and watch it.
Yes.
What a reference. I'll pull it out and I'll send you some links, Jason. I actually ran a website. This is back in the late 90s when Dallas was on like reruns on TNN. Full website, nitpicking the show, talking about the show, had it up for years. I should dig it out. Yeah, but that is prime storytelling. You're absolutely right.
And even when they brought it back for a couple of seasons, I guess it was on Turner, TNT, whatever it was on.
I think
it was the reboot. It was JR's kid. JR and Bobby's kids were older.
Yep, and I mean, and it wasn't the original, but damn, it wasn't bad. I mean,
it was good. I liked it.
It had a lot of the same elements to it. And,
it did.
They didn't it continued kind of like where they were from all those years ago. Just fast forward, they're still. And I've never been one to go, oh, I want that house on TV. But there's two I always wanted. I either wanted the South Fork Ranch or I wanted the Malibu Beach house in 2.5 Men. Either one. Either one. Give me one of those two. But yeah, like I said,
not the Dynasty Castle.
I wasn't big on Dynasty.
Neither was I.
I
was
was Dallas, and then I watched Falcon Crest when that started coming on.
Yes,
Falcon Crest was very good. The Falcon Crest house was nice as well. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, people will laugh at that analogy, but seriously, somebody stick Tony in front of a TV and let him binge watch Dallas from the beginning. I mean,
people like the Who Shot JR cliffhanger, right? People watch it. You'd watch it today, and you'd say, "Oh yeah, whatever." Everybody does that. You know why? Because it worked.
Oh yeah,
That's why.
People
say Seinfeld is unfunny, and then I promise I'll stop talking. Seinfeld is unfunny. You know why Seinfeld is funny? Because everybody copies it. So now it's not funny.
Well, if you go back, you can even go back and watch. WWF's not a good example, but if you go back and watch Georgia Championship Wrestling, World Class, Mid Atlantic, when it went off the air, there was people getting beat up, there was chaos going on, and the announcers, for the really they're getting more animated than they've been all show, with Ricky Morton's out, he's getting beat up, it's 3-on-1. Oh, here comes Robert Fans, we got to go, we're out of time, and. What do you want to do? You want to tune in next week to see how it turned out.
Exactly.
Like I said, I don't mind this week's ending because it's set up for the pay-per-view. It's like, okay, Orange Cassidy gets beat up. He sticks his hands in his pocket with his little, stands up like Hulk Hogan does with, he sold it a little bit, kind of going back down and getting back up. But, that's, for the pay-per-view. Okay. He took a 5-on-1, and thank God Connor's girlfriend didn't get hurt while she was in the ring, but, he took the 5-on-1 beat down and, he kept going, and so that sets up the pay-per-view. But, if we were going to, with having two shows, even if Collision gets taped after, Dynamite, you can still go Dynamite, Collision. Okay, this happened on Collision. Let's see where it carries over to Dynamite, because they're not doing really two separate shows. And, it's before they did the roster split, WWE did that really well with angles from Raw to SmackDown to Raw to keep you turning over to see what was going to happen.
I feel like Collision now is turning to a 2-hour rampage at this point.
I can't tell you the last time I watched it, to be honest with you.
The last time I watched, golly, it's probably when Edge was on there. No. The last time I watched Collision when I was there at it. This year with Chris and either Memphis or South Haven. Like that was the last time I ever watched it. And
well, if you want a good TV show to watch, if you get bored, I think they have it on Prime now. But I don't know if you remember, any of y'all remember this. But when Edge he had to retire so suddenly, that they were on Sci-Fi, and Sci-Fi released a new show called Haven, and they put Edge on there it was coming on after SmackDown. So they put Edge on there and a couple of guest starring roles to try to get the wrestling fans to stay and watch Haven. And they liked him so well, and he did so well, he actually became a recurring character for all 5 or 6 seasons of it. But it was a good show. I enjoyed Haven.
Was that the Vikings one?
No, this was like a town in New England that people had strange, what'd they call them?
Premonitions.
No, it wasn't. No, not permanent. But there was some kind of powers they had, but they called them something. I forgot what they called them. But and they didn't really realize they were affecting the weather, or they were doing this, or they were doing that, and stuff would get investigated. And it's based on if you ever read Stephen King's Colorado Kid, it's based on Stephen King's Colorado Kid. But it was 5 or 6 seasons worth. It was worth the watch. And like I said, Edge did very well, and as Edge has always done, he brought Jay along for the ride as a bartender and some recurring episodes. He'd go in there, and that was his confidant, because Edge was a sheriff, and that was his confidant to go in the bar and have a beer and talk to his bartender friend, Christian. So, but off topic, but yeah, like I said, I know we've kind of shit all over, a lot of the AEW stuff and Generation Me, if anybody remembers them doing that bullshit.
I do.
I saw them.
It wasn't. Well, that was another thing I rolled my eyes at, because like with TNA, I'm just like, okay, we're copying this now. Everybody knows it's Young Bucks. Why are we changing their name? But that's one thing about today's wrestling. I will say that I'm happy for that. No companies like Vince back in the day bringing in a 45-year-old wrestler and acting like it's the first wrestling match they've ever had. Nobody's ever seen them. I think aside from like Flair and Dusty, that when they brought them in, everybody else was just like, like Big Boss Man coming in. Like we had to sit there and watch Big Bubba Rogers for the previous 5 years. So
Yeah, but remember though, that was Jim Cornette with Midnight Express, and he had the tennis rackets.
oh yeah,
and he had his
Mama
phone,
Cornette
and
came in to be the Mama Cornette sent him in to be
Uh-huh.
Jim's bodyguard because Jim got beat up by somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but back to the original point, and again, circling back to what Jason said or what you said, if Tony Khan wants to, book week to week, go watch Dallas. I'm already on season 9 after Bobby's death, and I forgot how tear-jerking it was. The other show that you guys know I'm a huge fan of is the Chicago series on NBC, and that
good thing about Bobby's death is it was all a dream.
it was.
Yeah,
It really was.
Let's have a conversation about that. Maybe just the three of us. It's a little beyond common, but I have a lot to say about that.
But still, I mean, it's when you think about, TV, there's something in there that gets you hooked, and it's long-term storyline. Like, for example, let's look at Medfire PD. Okay, I've been watching them. They're all respectively in, I think, 11, 12, like season 10 even. I'd have to look, but I've been watching it since the beginning. Love the shows. It's great. There's just something, about those characters that makes you identify and like them. And then you've got Law and Order SVU, which has been on at least, I think we're in season 26 now, or 25, 26. That again is, Marissa. Hold on. What was that? That was the cat. Sorry, guys. Sorry for the boom. That was the cat. But Mariska Hargitay, I can't say her name. Hold on. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Something else is unfiltered too.
Well, while Danny's doing that, Mariska Hargitay was also on Falcon Crest.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight this comment. Collision is the best show going. Y'all are some WWE fans who don't like anything else. Sir, you're stupid. I've been watching this shit for 45 years plus. I have met people from all walks. There's a lot of stuff in AEW I like, and they could be better. But the best damn thing about Collision is the flipping commercials when they got the Buffalo Wild Wings and Hank in there. Collision's been awful since Punk left, and that's not my opinion, sir. That's just a fact, Jack.
Yeah. The thing about it is, and that, to AEW fans, I won't call them tribalists, but if you're an AEW fan, here's the thing, and since it's unfiltered, I'm just going to be blunt. It's a childish attitude to take if you say that, people want AEW to fail or to die. And I use the word childish very specifically because it's like kids who say, my parents hate me because they didn't buy me an iPad because I got F's in school. They don't hate you. They don't want, they don't want you dead. They don't want you to fail. They want you to improve because you can do better. That's what that is. So if you think people are taking shots at AEW just because they want to see it fail, that is childish.
I get that. Yeah. I get that same thing all the time.
Yeah.
And you can go. I made this whole podcast about AEW. I spent thousands of dollars on this company. I've bought figures, shirts, went to the shows. And it sucks to see where it's at now. And then, when you call stuff out, you get something like that, like you're a WWE fan, and I am a WWE fan. I'm a wrestling fan.
Right.
Absolutely. That's what we all are. That's what we have in common doing this.
If something sucks, I'm going to say it sucks.
Correct.
I'm sorry. If it sucks, it sucks.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that, then...
Yeah, I mean...
Childish. It literally is a childish attitude. I'll come out... You're being unfiltered. I know we're talking AEW, but the booking of Chad Gable this year has been atrocious. Okay? The Wyatt Six is a completely failed experiment. The Final Testament is just completely boring. 80% of Raw every week just bores me to tears.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you. I mean, if you want to...
But you know what? I'll call it out when I see when I see what I don't like, and there are some good things.
I mean, Cody with me now since he's won the title has been hit or miss.
Yes.
And I'm with you. I really want the Wyatt Six to succeed because of Bray. And I don't know if you saw that stuff Monday, but man, he looked just like Bray in that promo he cut. It was kind of eerie actually. But no, and I like Karrion Kross when he was Killer Kross in TNA, and it's like no matter even with Vince gone, because Vince was the one that released him, Triple H brought him back, and it's like I want the guy to get over. I mean, that entrance that him and Scarlett had was amazing, and then the bell had to ring. That was like the Ultimate Warrior all over again.
That's it, and it's really a shame, and all we want, do better, because we know you can, and that goes for both AEW and WWE.
And I'll tell you, but my biggest problem with Tony Khan is if you go back when Vince bought the company from his dad, it was a family business. He had been around it for a while, watched his dad do business, and yada yada yada. And even though him and his dad, did business differently, he had still been around it long enough to see how the wrestling business worked.
Correct.
And Tony coming in, like I said, I'm not sitting here saying any of us could do better because we've never ran a wrestling company. But I'll tell you the one thing that that I'd bet money on, I bet my house on, is that if we had Tony Khan's money, the four of us are smart enough to go, we don't know what the hell we're doing. We need to hire somebody that does. And it's not like he's scraping by and he can't afford to hire somebody. You hire somebody and say, hey, look, yes, this is my company, but I want to learn. So when I ask you why you're doing something, it's not me coming at you. It's me trying to figure out how your mind's working. He's had some of the best minds in the wrestling business. I mean, he had Tully, he had Arn, he's got, Jake's still there when, God bless Jake. He's collecting that paycheck for maybe 1 or 2 appearances a year. But, Jake Roberts has been touted as one of the greatest minds the wrestling business has ever seen by just about anybody you've ever talked to that worked with him. But yet you're not using that mind you got. And it's, so it's like you've got the resources, you've got the money, and you just refuse to do it. You want to do it your way. And I mean, if that's fine, that's what you want to do. And you want to, you want to have your 650,000 fans every week to tune in when there's millions of them on there. That's up to you. I mean, WWE ratings have been dropping too, but I will tell you, I've noticed and talked about it here on a different note. NXT the last few weeks has been damn near 95% women the whole time, and I'm down for it.
Yep.
I mean, those women have been putting on a hell of a show on NXT the past few weeks. And I mean, you've had a men's match here and there, but it's been mostly women, and I'm good with it.
Yep. They've been great. I still remember that there was a Bully Ray interview where he was talking about, kind of what you just said.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I think now that I remember, it was actually with Eric Bischoff. Bully asked Eric Bischoff, who was your learning tree? Where did you learn the business from? Eric Bischoff said very proudly, Vern Gagne, right? Mm-hmm. And then Bully asked, where did Paul Heyman learn? Dusty Rhodes. Where did Vince learn? Vince learned from that. Where did Triple H learn? Vince, Bruce Pritchard, Gerald Briscoe, Pat Patterson, right? Who's Tony Khan's learning tree?
Dave Meltzer.
And the internet, correct.
Yeah, they thought I didn't know this. I can't remember the guy's name or not. They were talking about it on an interview that I saw the other day about Dave Meltzer and Tony Khan, and said Tony's very first hire was I don't remember the person's name, but it wasn't a talent, but it was somebody behind the scenes, and they said Tony hired him simply because Meltzer told him to, and it's like, yes,
I heard that too.
And
oh, brother,
and you can like Meltzer, you can hate him, it doesn't matter. But the point is, he's been in the business since early '80s, and
at least
if he was that smart and that good, don't you think a company would have hired him by now? Why the hell are you listening to some guy that wants to sit there and it's like it's like the 12-year-old that the teacher tells to write an essay with 500 words, and he puts very, 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 very much at the end, at the end of paragraphs to make sure he gets to the 500 words. Because Meltzer's, I write the X amount of words per week. Who gives a shit? They don't make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, so, if that's who you're listening to, I mean, God bless you. It's your money, I'll at least
demonstrable lies,
unsubstantiated.
I mean, heck, it's gotten to the point where even Conrad Thompson can't, fire back at Eric Bischoff. Eric Bischoff points out,
I know Bruce
else is crap, right? He used to fight him back, right? Now he's just like, I can't even anymore.
Well, it's funny if you keep up with it online. It's like JR. I know he's getting old and probably just doesn't occur to him what he's saying, but at least once or twice in his podcast, he's shitting on AEW without meaning to.
Yeah, but he knows how to do it, right? He learned from Bill Watts. He knows exactly how to do it.
Well, it's like if you listen to his podcast, I have to laugh because Conrad will be like, well, Jim, don't you mean it like this way? And he's like, Well,
No?
yeah, Conrad. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's saying the same thing, just making it nicer, and it's just like
JR doesn't care. JR doesn't
at
care.
this point in his life, no, because I know he moved back from Florida back home to Oklahoma to be closer to his kids, and I mean, with all his health issues and everything, so like I said, he's still under contract there, and it's like you'll be listening to his podcast, and they'll be talking about something, and he fires off that opinion, from the guy that's been in the business for 50 years, and you kind of you start giggling before, and then here comes Conrad. Well, Jim, what you really mean? You mean it this way, though, right? He's like, yeah, I do. So it's funny.
I go back and listen to it. It's like, and you can always tell because Conrad's like, okay, well, let's keep moving here. That's the line. Every time I hear that now, I'm like, you got nothing, right, Conrad? Okay, let's move on.
Yeah, I'm not. I've been enjoying Bruce Pritchard's the last couple of weeks because JBL's filling in for him.
Yes,
and
I hope Bruce is okay.
Yeah, I do too. But the first podcast I ever started listening to was Michael Cole and JBL, and it was the Cole and Layfield show. I don't know why they quit. They were getting great ratings, but they talked a little bit of politics. They talked a little bit of wrestling. And they were you could tell they enjoyed each other's company, and it was like when that one ended, I'm like, well, shit. And that's when I found Cornette's. And, like I said, people like, oh, Cornette's stupid. Cornette on his podcast is his character. Yes. Now, does he believe a lot of that stuff? Sure. He just embellishes on it very much on his podcast. And it's made the man a lot of money without ever having to leave his house. So if you want to listen to Cornette and take everything he says seriously, yeah, you're going to hate him. It's there to sit there and laugh at the outlandish takes he has, and listen to his co-host Brian Last. Either agree with him or start laughing. And yep, going to have to edit this one out for YouTube. So I mean, but like I said, you got to take all that stuff with a grain of salt because most of those people on their podcast, except for Kevin Nash, just comes across as he just don't give a shit about nothing. He's going to tell you things. But anybody that that is a Jim Cornette fan from back in the day, that's what they want to hear. That's what his audience wants to hear. They want to hear the Louisville lip going off, about what XYZ. And, but like I said, Jeff Jarrett made a very good point. When Jeff Jarrett had that Texas Chainsaw Massacre match with, who the hell did he wrestle in that?
I think Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. Whoever it was, Conrad was like, hey, Jeff, did you hear your old buddy Jim? He goes, oh Lord, what Jimmy have to say? Let's just say he's not a big fan of that match you had Wednesday night. And he kind of giggled for a second. He said, well, here's the thing with Jim. He goes, he's got a big following. He goes, and when he likes something, his audience is going to make sure they go watch it. He goes, and when he don't like something, all of his audience is going to make sure they go watch it. He goes, Jimmy, I know what you're doing, baby. Keep doing it. I appreciate you. So, and it's not just Cornette that does it. They're all trying to help out the wrestling business in their own way. And so, like I said, your favorite people, the tribalists that want to go back and forth at one another, I don't know if that guy's still listening or not, but that's the kind of troll comment that I pass on, in the groups. I mean, you're gonna tell me Collision's going to have. You want to say Dynamite's the best wrestling show on TV for the week? If that's your choice, so be it. But it damn sure ain't Collision. That doesn't mean that Raw's the best for the week or SmackDown's the best for the week. I mean, they all have their weeks to where one was better than the other ones, but it damn sure has not been Collision in a long time. So, you want to troll, go somewhere else because I'm gonna call you out on your bullshit, and I have no issue doing it unless you're gonna jump out on the screen at me. Ooh.
Yeah. I'll give another analogy. This is something that occurred to me. I don't know where it came from, but I think it's a pretty good one. AEW is like Tony Khan's Italian restaurant. Okay? They've got the best pizza ovens. The best pizza you'll ever taste. You'll get it at AEW. But the floors are filthy. The sign is falling apart. The tables are sticky. The place is an absolute mess. But if you go and you just walk in every day and get a pizza slice, or if you order takeout or delivery, you'll be like, this is the best place in town. This is awesome. This is great. Okay, if all you're doing is you're buying pizza slices or whatever. But if you're looking for a dining experience, you're not going to go there. And that's the problem. with tribalists and a lot of those kinds of childish AEW fans, you're having a different conversation. They're talking about the pizza slices. You're talking about the dining experience. And that's where the problem is.
No, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, but you also go to, like everybody says AEW does pay-per-view very well. And I agree, their pay-per-views are normally very entertaining. However, it's like, Connor and I being in Greensboro, I was excited to be there. I wanted to see Sting, but man, by the time that match was over, I was like, good. And I had to drive home and I'm like, I'm exhausted. I mean, it's just, and then watching when Danielson lost the title to Moxley, it's like I was sitting there with one eye open, because I wanted to see that match and how, if he was really going out and how he was going to do it. But I mean, 5 and 6 hours at a time. I mean, and people are like, well, WWE's 4 or 5 matches, pay-per-views are stupid. Well, it makes it to me, you don't have to like them, and that's fine. But I would say when you're only having 4 or 5 matches, 6 matches tops on a pay-per-view, how do you think those performers would actually make it to the pay-per-view feel? It's like, okay, we're going good.
Yeah. It's the dining experience. Okay, it may not have been the absolute best meal you ever had, but it was comfortable. The place was clean. You could sit there. Everybody was able to get something that they enjoy. Okay, you like that place and you like the pizza slices. That's awesome. But we're talking 2 different things here. I get it. It's a whole experience because people will listen to what you just said, Jason, and say, yeah, but the matches were awesome. I'm talking about something else. And it's just a conversation that goes over a lot of people's heads. It's a shame.
Well, the thing is for me, my personal opinion on it, and people will disagree, and I don't really give a damn, but it's like AEW's competition. No, they're an alternative. They have always
They were.
And see, I'll disagree with you there as well, because I'll go back, Bischoff actually said it best, and I agreed with him. I thought it before, but he actually verbalized it. If you want to be competition, grow some balls and go up with them head to head on Monday nights or Friday nights. That's when the competition starts. That's what made the Monday nights wars so good. When, you flipping back and forth on the TV and having to rewind to see what you just missed on both programs, not just one. It's not picking one over the other. They both were on fire. And, and their programs were better because they knew the other one was on the other channel. And, so like I said, to me, they will always be an alternative until they go head to head, and then we'll see. Somebody asked earlier, what's a good rating? I mean, ratings aren't what they used to be, but I mean, Raw and SmackDown both are still pulling in close to 2 million viewers a week, sometimes over. And, it's tough for AEW to crack 750,000, on an unopposed night. And I wish they were doing 2 million viewers. I do. I want them to succeed. I don't, like you said, oh, you want AEW to fail? No, I don't. I'm grateful. I'm glad they're around. I just like I said, do better. That's all. WWE can do better.
Yes.
But but right now they're still, Bischoff said once that being number 2 to WWE way back in the day when he first took over. Well, he said he didn't even like being called number 2 because it was such a gap between the two, and that gap still exists.
It really does. And the thing is, I mean, I'd like to see them just be able to retain a rating over a show. NXT does, SmackDown and Raw do, right? If they have overruns, they don't go down, they go up. There's only one extended segment in AEW this whole year that has kept a steady rating and not gone downhill as the thing went on. One.
What was that? Refresh my memory.
Ospreay and MJF, that 1 hour retained its audience, and then it went off a cliff.
Well, and what gets me is everybody like, oh, AEW beat NXT. They by God should. I mean, how many people? I mean, I know
this is complex.
I mean, I know they had Punk on, and then they had Orton on the first 2 weeks they were on, the CW, but that's not normal. These people are coming up from the Performance Center. You've never seen them before. You might have, like your Julia or your Stephanie McCoy that people's heard of pop in, occasionally, but a lot of these people coming in, there's not your Sami Zayn and your Kevin Owens and people of that nature out there that are, Bobby Roode that they can show in the audience and pop for, because they're coming into NXT anymore. I mean, a lot of these people are unknown. So you're going to sit there and tell me on a show that's got, Chris Jericho, John Moxley, FTR, that people know who they are, and you're going to sit there and jerk off because they beat a developmental brand. Well, you got more problems than you think there, buddy.
You really do.
But like here recently, even without the main roster talent, NXT still beating AEW. This week, yeah, like this week,
it shouldn't even be close.
no.
I mean, it shouldn't. With the talent AEW has, it should not be close.
See, they used to be blowing them out, like they would blow them out every week. But I think since 2023, it's just gotten smaller. The gap's gotten smaller, smaller, smaller. Now they're finally beating them. This week, actually, NXT beat Dynamite.
Yep.
Like NXT's main event was Rich Holland and
Andre Chase.
And like their main event was like 735,000.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what drew the highest. I'm curious to see. I think that was the peak. I could be wrong, but
I'm not a fan. I wasn't a fan of Chase U, so I'm not gonna miss that. But
I hated it. But the point is, yeah, they retained their ratings and people watched at the end, and the ratings went up towards the end because they built to something. That just did not happen with AEW.
But so hopefully things turn around. Hopefully, like I said, I will tell you that I'm interested coming up on the pay-per-view. We'll try to end on a positive note. I'm trying to see. Normally I can kind of tell you where I think someone's going to go. And I'm, between Kyle O'Reilly getting involved, Adam Cole not. I had actually originally thought that Adam and Roderick Strong would both win their 3 matches. It would be a 3-way, and you'd have possibly Roddy turning on Adam Cole and doing something with MJF. And I mean that could still possibly happen, but I mean. At the end of the day, I like Roderick Strong. What a lot of people, just don't. It's not that they don't like him. He's just in that same category as like a Johnny Gargano. People are just like, and so I'm interested to see where that goes because I mean, hopefully they do something with it. Get the bad taste out of my mouth for flipping the whole damn angle. On MJF and Adam Cole. So take it somewhere else. Did MJF spend his money? And buy off the Undisputed Kingdom, and now they're going to be with him instead of Adam Cole, and then Adam Cole will have to recruit Kyle O'Reilly and something of that nature. I mean, make it interesting.
I wouldn't be mad at that.
Being you brought Leo Rush back, kiss and make up with Bobby Fish, and get Red Dragon back together. I'd like to say I'm just curious to see. To me, this is going to be Roddy and MJF in a one-on-one match. I mean, maybe we finally see the reappearance of Wardlow with MJF. Maybe he comes out and everybody thinks he's with Roddy because of the Undisputed Kingdom, and he's back in his suit and his hair pulled back and gives Max a dirty look, but does his bidding anyway. Because I mean, like I said, they should have never took Wardlow away from MJF if they were not ready to strap the rocket to his back. You go out there and you let him squash what people consider to be either your biggest star or one of your 2 or 3 biggest stars you have, and Wardlow squashed him, and then they squashed Wardlow. So, I'll be interested to see where it goes. And like I said, do we finally, I know the Shane McMahon talks have cooled down, but is that just to keep people from talking? Do we finally get a Shane McMahon appearance with John Moxley's group Saturday? Do we get something else? I mean, there's a couple of things I'm interested to see. So we'll see. But we're coming up on actually we passed the hour. So Connor, final thoughts there, buddy.
For me, just right here. I used to watch AEW regularly, but now I rarely watch. You sound like me. The last time I've ordered a pay-per-view for AEW was Dynasty that we reacted to on here. It was the last time I watched. I'll probably not even watch the pay-per-view, but I'll probably catch the highlights or something. But it sucks to see where AEW is at. I hope they turn things around, but I don't think I don't know if they're going to. I know an independent wrestler that was doing a taping for Ring of Honor or something, and I talked with them. I went to a show recently, and they said that Tony Khan said that he's going to put out WWE. Like he shouted it out. I just made me roll my eyes a little bit because if you're trying to go at WWE, you're not going to beat the WWE. It's like the minor league baseball team trying to beat the MLB or the XFL trying to beat NFL. So it's not going to happen. But I do hope things get better. I mean, I don't want to see AEW go out. Even though a lot of people think that I hate AEW and, I just want to see it fail. But obviously you want it to fail because you don't want it to get better. You just want to keep on going the same ride. You want to, I mean, if you're fine with the product, so be it. But that's just not how you keep fans. But yeah, I thought this first episode was really good. We did a lot of new things on here that we've never done before. I want to thank Jason for coming up with this show. Yeah, that's all I got.
Well, before I get the final takes of the last, I'm gonna this flipping moron here. Do y'all even watch AEW? AEW, excuse me.
I watched.
Well, I thought I did, but that's why I was going over so many different performers and storylines or lack thereof. But no, now that I think about it more, no, Wednesdays I'm jerking off and Saturdays I'm scratching my ass. So, Hammer, go ahead and tell them what you think before we get out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I like ditto to what Connor said. Nobody wants it to fail. Maybe there are some people who want it to fail just because they're so sick of that kind of attitude, right? And now there's this whole idea that there's WWE tribalists. No, if there are, it's in reaction to the nonsense that the AEW tribalists are perpetrating. But like I said, you can see from my moniker, I'm too tired to deal with that. I'm hoping to see, and I think I say this for pretty much every pay-per-view, I just want to see the stories progress, and I just want some things to make sense. They'll have great matches. They've got the action covered. They always deliver in terms of the pizza slices, right? Improve the dining experience. That's what I want to say about AEW right now. And fingers crossed, as everybody says.
Mm-hmm.
All right, give us the last word from Cucamonga, California there, Danny.
Okay, so I do apologize for the cat catastrophe. Everything's good now, but I agree. I don't want AEW to fail. I think what really got me in AEW was something different from the WWE. That's again heavily scripted in advance, heavily scripted, kind of somewhat predictable. The good thing about AEW is it's unpredictable because you don't know what's going to happen. However, it also doesn't really do a lot for new viewers because there's like no long-term booking. It's like what I was saying before when, I'm watching, Chicago Med, Chicago Fire, Chicago PD, SVU. This is what draws me in because you kind of see those characters. You're invested in the characters. There's a book I'm reading by Carl Weber called The Family Business 7. It's a series on BET, and it's a phenomenal series. And again, my reasons for that, I want to know what happens. With AEW, if you did have some long-term booking and some, creative direction for characters, like for Wardlow, for example, is a prime example. Hobbs is another one. You're going to draw more people in, but then also too, you have to have that mindset of wanting to do that, which I don't think Tony Khan wants to. He's said, I book for sickos. Well, not everyone's a sicko. When you think of the old school fans, like myself, Jason, Amer, for example, we want to see we want to see wrestling. Whereas your younger fans, they want to see these spot fest backyard wrestling. Okay, to each his own. However, again, in order to be good, you're going to have to start somewhere, and you're going to have to realize for Tony Khan, what can I do to become better? Take away his booking, for example, only let him sign the checks. And for the love of God, please, somebody call Scott D'Amore. That's all I'll say.
Well, I don't know if you heard or not, but he was actually at the WWE Performance Center last week with that indie thing that the WWE is now doing. What do they call it, Amber? What are they doing now with that indie stuff?
The ID program.
Yes, Scott D'Amore was back. Was at the Performance Center. But Riley commented he'd say AEW is predictable. Hell, I would be good with predictable because you don't know what the hell they're going to do. I mean, now once the match gets put in the ring, yes, it's pretty predictable. But as far as the rest of it goes, it's just what shit show are we going to see tonight?
Mm-hmm.
That was my follow-up comment. Match outcomes are generally predictable.
There you go.
Right? Like it's almost like it's an extended squash, right?
Yep.
What you're going to see week to week, I don't know. And hell, Vince Russo was unpredictable, right? I mean, so unpredictable isn't always good. It's got to make sense too.
Viagra on pole match.
Yep.
How would you guys feel? And people in the chat, what would you guys think about Russo coming on creative for AEW?
I'd stop. I'd definitely stop watching. That would be the nail in the coffin for me. Yeah, we'd be trying to do this. We'd be trying to do this show, and you're like, "What'd you think of Dynamite this week?" I'm like, "When that came on, I'm sorry, bro. I mean,
bro, you just don't understand the wrestling business. Bro.
All I can see in my head is Bash at the Beach 2000 when he comes out there, and then this happens, whatever, the Jarrett finish, and then Hogan comes out there, and they're like, "This isn't on the script." And Hogan's infamous line, "This is why this company is like this." Well, I can just see that turning in my head.
Years later, they finally did admit that it was on the script, but what was unscripted that got Turner and WCW sued was the promo that Russo come out there and cut after Hogan. Yep, he did. But and that was probably the best promo Vince Russo ever did.
100%.
Vince Russo did a promo. Oh, geez, I must have missed it.
Yeah, look up his Bash at the Beach promo. That's what got Turner sued because that was not on the that was that didn't work for him, brother. He didn't agree with that. So.
There was one word, bald.
And I called Brad Siegel and I said, bro.
And there's that sounds.
You gotta make Booker T the champion, bro.
Well, he did well for himself, and honestly, a lot of people shit on him on NXT commentary. I think he's hysterical when especially when Trick Williams is coming out.
Oh, I love Trick Williams.
But we are actually over the hour, about an hour and 20 minutes in. I would like to thank each and every one of you for joining us, and we're back with us, our resident diva and cat control artist, Miss Danny, all the way from Cucamonga, California, and of course our fearless leader, the one that makes all this happen, Connor. Thank you so much. And the first episode of WrestleZone Unfiltered.
Hold on. I'm going to respond to this one. I don't want to do this.
Hold on.
It's
on. This is Unfiltered. This is what we're going to do to close this show off.
You got a hater, bro.
Yeah, I haven't done this. Tried to type gonorrhea in there or something. I
haven't done this in a while. I know you used to comment on our stuff and you love our stuff. So I don't know who this.
Connor, you respond to that, Miss Jessie or Mr. Jesse. I will say this right now. I will stand up for Connor. And if I were you, I would seriously go check out a book at the public library because obviously you do not know anything about pro wrestling. You need to learn reading and comprehension. And this is from a teacher. And I would be jealous if I were you because you are not Connor. You will never be Connor. Bye. Have a great night.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was nice of him to capitalize "fuck," but not Connor. I guess.
I'm sorry. I've been out, gentlemen, since 4:30, and I've got a 45-minute drive complete with deer.
What I'll say about that is
on the way to work. So I'm crabby right now.
Go ahead, Connor.
I really think if you want my, I don't watch AEW anymore, but I still know what's going on. I'm not going to put myself through misery and watch Collision and Rampage and all this bullshit that they try to put out. The only watchable show is Dynamite. Sometimes that's not even watchable. But I don't watch AEW, and lots of people like AEW fans will say, if you don't like it, don't watch. Well, I don't watch, and you see how the crowd and stuff is.
Well, I'll just say this, and then we're going to get out of here. This is a prime example of either you can't type and spell, or this is what happens when you got Tony's dick too far down your throat and you hit something on the keyboard by accident. I mean, I hope it tastes good. Go ahead and swallow for Mr. Khan. I mean, he looks like he's got some little dick energy going on, and that's fine. I don't know which one you got, but tuck it in and sit down, have a piss, and we'll see you next week. Unfiltered, we're out.